My name is Scott Hemming, and this is the Political Nonpartisan Society, and I'd like to welcome Steve McNeil today, and we'll be discussing two issues. The first issue is, Stephen, what's your feeling on, a lot of people talk about the two traditional parties accumulating $13 billion in debt, and they are the ones responsible for that. What's your feeling on that?
Well, first of all, Scott, thanks very much for allowing me to be part of the Nova Scotia Political Society in a nonpartisan way. You know, when you bring up the issue of the accumulated debt of our province, there's no question that debt has been accumulated, obviously, by the only two parties that have governed to this date. As you will know, the two recent budgets that have been introduced by the Democratic Party have been an unprecedented growth in our debt by $750 million in less than a year that was directly attributed to this NDP government. And when you look back over from really 1971 until present day, the largest growth happened was during the 80s in the Buchanan government, where we were growing our debt at about 19%, which basically means we were outspending our revenue by 19-20%. One of the challenges as a province that we have is that we have created a situation where we have, in our good days, been investing those in program spending that are really simply not sustainable in the long run, so that when we have a dip in revenue, when we have something happen unforeseen, we can't control the growth of our deficit because those programs obviously go on as a cost every day.
Sure. Well, thank you. And I guess, you know, just in response to that, Stephen, we have to look at some restructuring, obviously, because we have carried on programs which we all enjoy, but can we afford them?
Well, simply, I think if you look back over a period of time, without restructuring how government is delivered, without restructuring those programs, it's simply not sustainable. Without growing revenue, you know, and even with where I think Nova Scotians should be alarmed is when we do have an opportunity and have had an opportunity in good revenue growth, we've always taken that revenue and put it directly into program spending, which in turn increased the ability of the next government or the next group to kind of hold the line, or it affected how they could hold the line.
Yes.
We need to do, in my view, when we are having that revenue growth, also bearing in mind debt is growing, setting aside money that will allow us to weather the tough storms, you know, just like we do in our personal lives. Not every Nova Scotian spends to the revenue they make. They spend what they believe is necessary in a comfortable way, and yet they set aside savings to weather those difficult storms, whether someone becomes sick, when the kids need something, if the roof leaks, you set money aside to you fix the roof. You don't go remortgage your house every time you need to do a repair to it. And that's what we've been doing as a province. We don't save for that leaky roof. We are just dumping it into a program which is simply not sustainable, and there are some tough decisions ahead for government.
Well, thanks. That's wonderful. So it brings me to my next question. With a province with such a high debt per capita, one of the highest in Canada, how would you rate your working relationship with the NDP in decision making?
We've had no real contact with the government in the first year of its mandate. There's been a number of meetings that I've initiated, that I've sat down with the Premier, but there's been no conversation with us about you know, what programs should we be investing in, what programs should we be drawing back on, how can we help save the province money, what is, you know, the best direction. This is something that there really has been no conversation between us and the government, which is quite interesting, because in opposition, you know, Mr. Dexter and the NDP government preached about cooperation.
Hello, I'd like to take this moment to thank Stephen McNeil for his time today in answering some questions pertaining to the $13 billion debt that the Nova Scotia currently has. And of course, that debt continues to grow. We need to have solutions. I believe the only way to accomplish this is by governments working with the opposition parties, We can't work in isolation. And I believe Daryl Dexter believes that as well. And somehow we have to encourage that dialogue so that we can get down to the solutions for Nova Scotians. Thanks so much. Bye now.